Welcome to Velvet Hour, a place between day and night, where stories are whispered gently into the quiet. Whether you're settling into bed, finding calm during your day, or seeking stillness after a long stretch of noise, this story was made for you. Let your body soften, let the world fall away. Here, you don't have to do anything, just listen, and allow the rhythm of this tale to guide you into stillness. Tonight's story is a quiet myth. A tale of longing, love, and the space between worlds. You'll meet Celine, a girl born of the moon's sorrow, raised among humans with no memory of her celestial past. And Kale, a hunter of the mortal world, whose heart refuses to let her go. Their journey is not one of great battles, but of choices made in silence, and love found in the in-between. So get comfortable. Close your eyes if you'd like, and step with us into the story, into moonlight and mist, and the soft glow of something eternal. This is Celine and the Stare of Stars. Long ago, when the stars were still young in the sky, the moon watched the earth from above. One evening, she shed a single tear into a lake hidden in the forest. Where that tear touched the water, a child came into being. Her skin held the quiet glow of moonlight, her hair drifted like silver threads, and her eyes shimmered with soft starlight. The forest village nearby found the girl resting at the water's edge. They named her Celine. They wrapped her in linen, placed honey on her lips, and brought her home. Celine grew up among herbs drying on windowsills, the creak of wooden floorboards, and the scent of pine smoke curling from low chimneys. She learned to gather wild roots, to hum to the bees while moving through their garden paths, and to carry water before the frost touched the ground. The villagers watched her with quiet care. They spoke her name with softness, and left white lilies by her door during full moons. Celine smiled often. She walked through the trees at dusk, listened to the wind in the leaves, and felt the pull of something she couldn't yet name. Her hands knew the rhythm of the village, but her gaze often followed the sky. The nights felt familiar to her. She stayed up late watching the moonrise, her feet nestled in warm earth, her thoughts drifting with the shadows of clouds. The forest wrapped around her like a cradle, and still, there was a quiet echo in her chest that never fully settled. The forest changed as the days grew cooler. Light filtered through the trees in soft gold. Leaves began to dry and fall. Celine followed the old footpaths, her basket brushing against her side. She moved toward a quiet glade she often visited. There, moon fruit hung low from a gnarled branch. She reached for the berries, her fingers gentle on the stem. A rustle came from behind her. Steady footsteps moved through the brush. She turned slowly. A young man stood a few paces away. He carried a hunting bow, a satchel, and a bundle of fresh herbs. His boots were worn, and there was dust on his sleeves. "Didn't expect to see anyone here," he said. Celine let her hand fall to her side. "The moon fruit is ready." He stepped forward. "So is the star thistle. It grows near the stream." For a moment, the space between them held only the sound of leaves shifting above. "I'm Kale," he said. "Celine." He gave a small nod. "You live past the ridge?" "Yes." She watched him shift his weight and glanced down at the berries. He reached up, picked one, and bit into it. "They're sweeter this year," he said. Celine picked one as well and tasted it. The fruit was soft, the flavor faint and cool. "You come here often?" he asked. "Sometimes. When I need quiet." He looked up the sky through the trees. "It's a good place for that." They stood in the filtered light a little longer. A breeze moved through the clearing. "I should get back," he said. Celine nodded. "So should I." He turned and walked toward the trees. Just before the branches closed behind him, he looked back once, then kept going. Celine stood there for a while. Her basket full, the air still warm with the last light of day. The next few days passed quietly. Celine returned to the forest paths as the mornings turned cooler. Her hands knew where to find roots that held their warmth below the surface. One afternoon, near the same glade, she heard a bird startle. She turned and saw Kale again. He raised a hand. "Didn't mean to surprise you." Celine smiled. "The birds always warn me first." He stepped into the clearing, brushing pine needles from his shoulder. The same bough hung at his back. "I brought something," he said, reaching into his satchel. He pulled out a thin carving of wood, a little fox, no bigger than her palm. "You left a ribbon in the grass," he said. "Figured I'd return it with company." She took the fox and turned it gently in her hand. The detail was simple, but the shape was familiar. "Thank you," she said. They walked together along the stream's edge, feet silent on the moss. Kale spoke little, pointing to tracks in the mud, showing where a deer had passed through in the morning. Celine crouched beside the prints. "How can you tell the time?" "The edges of the hoofprints are soft," he said. "If they were dry, it would have been yesterday." She nodded, studying them more closely. As they continued, Kale showed her how to follow trails, how to check wind direction with dry leaves, and how to recognize the rustle of a squirrel from the step of something heavier. In return, she shared where night flowers grew along the eastern path. Their scent only opened after the last birds quieted. As twilight approached, they reached a patch of wild mint. "The deer sleep near here," he said. Celine closed her eyes for a moment. The forest held a steady rhythm, crickets, leaves shifting, water moving slowly over stone. She opened her eyes and looked at Kale. He was studying the trees. "You always listen before speaking," she said. "There's always something to hear." The light thinned. They both turned toward their separate paths. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked. "Yes." The forest wore its autumn colors without sound. Leaves fell in slow spirals, covering the ground in layers of gold and rust. Celine stepped onto the path before the sun reached the treetops. She walked with a basket tucked at her hip, the scent of wild mint and damp earth rising around her. Kale was waiting near the stream, one foot balanced on a smooth rock, a line of forage mushrooms spread out on a cloth beside him. "You came early," she said. "Didn't want to miss the light on the water." They walked upriver without urgency. Birds called overhead in pairs. Ferns brushed at their legs along the trail. Celine paused to watch a crow shifting its wings on a high branch. Kale stood beside her without speaking. "You're quiet," she said. "So are you." They continued forward, their boots pressing into the soft ground. At a bend in the stream, Kale pointed to a shallow pool where fish moved between shadows. "They'll vanish by first frost," he said. Celine watched their movements. Each flick of the tail left a ripple that stretched outward. "Everything changes when the air turns colder," she said. "It's already started." They sat near the water and shared pieces of dried apple from her basket. The wind shifted slightly, carrying the scent of moss and pine deeper into the valley. Kale leaned back against a fallen log. "Do you ever go beyond the ridge?" "No. I stay near the village." "You'd like the other side. There's a field of tall grass that hums when the wind moves through it." Celine pulled her knees to her chest and listened. The stream, the trees, Kale's steady breath, all moved together. "Maybe you'll show me," she said. "Maybe." They sat without speaking for a while. The air grew cooler. The light shifted. When they stood again, the sun was low in the sky. "Same place tomorrow?" She nodded. He smiled once and turned down the path. Shadows lengthened across the water. Before the forests were named, the sky sent quiet visitors to the earth. These were the moon spirits. They moved with silver light and soft steps, watching the world in silence and guiding the seasons of night. Most humans never saw them. They walked only where the stars cast shadows. In places where snow lingered too long, or where the wind smelled like rain before it fell. Celine had never heard them speak, but she had sometimes felt a stillness in the air when walking under a full moon. On the night of her 18th year, the wind slowed at dusk. The sky deepened to indigo, and a pale light hovered low above the hills. Celine stood near her garden, fingers brushing dried lavender stalks. A soft glow began to move between the trees, steady and silent. 3 figures stepped from the woods, each clothed in woven silver. Their eyes were calm, and their feet made no sound on the earth. One held a staff that shimmered like water. Another carried a lantern with no flame. The third extended her hand, palm open as if greeting something remembered. Celine felt no fear. Only a slow rising quiet in her chest. "We have come from the high sky," the lead spirit said. Her voice was even and low, like wind moving through tall grass. "You were born of the moon's light. The lake was the gate." Celine stood without moving. Her breath stayed slow. "The time has come," the spirit said. "Your place was never fixed in this world." Behind her, the wind turned toward the west. The trees bent just slightly, their leaves shimmering in the silver wash. "Do I have to go?" Celine asked. The spirit's eyes did not narrow or soften. "The moon waits." Celine felt the weight of the stars above her. Their light pressed gently into her skin, familiar in a way she had never named aloud. The spirits waited. Their presence did not hurry or pause. Far in the distance, an owl called once. Then all was still again. That night, Celine did not sleep. She sat near her window, a thin shawl over her shoulders, watching the moon rise between slow-moving clouds. The spirits had returned to the sky before the stars reached their highest point. Their light faded between the trees without sound. Only the scent of crushed lavender remained in the grass. The house was quiet. Her basket still held the mint she had gathered earlier. The carved fox rested near the door. In the morning, she walked through the forest without speaking. Her feet found the trail out of habit. Cale stood near the stream, hands in his pockets, watching the water catch pieces of light. He turned as she approached. "Did you walk all night?" Celine nodded. She didn't speak right away. They moved together along the trail. The forest shifted around them. Pines gave way to thinner trees with white bark. When they reached a flat stone by the river bank, Celine sat and looked out over the valley. "Something's changed," Cale said. "Yes." The wind moved the grasses. The air smelled of drying leaves and something metallic. Celine kept her eyes on the water. "The spirits came." Cale did not answer right away. His gaze followed the motion of the current. "From the moon?" "Yes." Another pause. The leaves whispered across the surface of the stones. "They want you to return? They said the moon is my origin." Cale ran a hand along the edge of the stone. "Will you go?" Celine looked down. Her hair moved in the wind, strands catching light like fine silk. "I don't know," she said. Cale stood. He stepped back from the river, eyes searching the sky. "If they return, is there a way to follow?" Celine hesitated. "They spoke of something called the Stare of Stars." The words felt heavy in the air. Cale tilted his head slightly. "Have you heard of it before?" "Only in fragments. Old stories say it connects the sky to the earth. It appears when choice is being tested." Cale's expression didn't shift. He didn't frown, didn't raise his voice. He only breathed slower. "Is it safe?" he asked. "I don't know. It was made for those with light inside them. Humans are made of something else." The silence after that stayed for a long time. "Then I'll go," Cale said. Celine looked up. "It may not be made for you." "I know." He didn't say anything else. His eyes stayed on hers, steady and unflinching. "If you leave without a path between us," he said, "you disappear. If the stair exists, I'll find it." The light dimmed behind the hills. Their shadows stretched long across the grass. The sky remained cloudless the next night. The stars pressed down with a stillness that touched the ground. Celine stood alone in the clearing beyond the village, where the spirits had first appeared. The air cooled around her ankles. The wind did not move the trees. Everything waited. Then the ground brightened. Light spilled from the sky in a wide arc, soft and deliberate. A path took shape. Each step floated just above the earth, wide enough for a single foot, gleaming as though carved from crystal. The first stair hovered an inch above the grass. It didn't glow brightly, but it was visible against the dark. Above it, more stairs appeared, dozens, then hundreds, rising upward toward a ridge of light that split the sky. Celine breathed slowly. Her heart moved with careful rhythm. Behind her, Cale stepped into the clearing. His eyes followed the light. He did not speak. Celine turned toward him. "They've opened the way," she said. He nodded once. "Is it time?" "Yes." Cale stepped forward. He stood beside the first stair, studying it as one might study a cliff edge. "You can stop here," Celine said. Her voice was steady. Cale placed a hand near the edge of the stair. The surface didn't react. It remained quiet under his palm. "It feels cold," he said. She nodded. "The old songs never described it clearly. How long is the path?" "No one ever counted." The wind returned slowly. It pressed gently at their backs. Cale stepped up onto the first stair. It held his weight. He smiled with a hint of surprise. No sound, no tremor. He looked back at her. "You'll wait?" "Every night." He nodded again. Then placed one foot on the next stair, and the next. Celine stood below, her hands folded in front of her, watching the trail rise higher with each careful step. The forest grew distant beneath him. Stars shifted above. Far below, the last leaf let go from a birch branch and drifted to the ground without sound. The higher Cale climbed, the less sound followed him. The forest slipped away beneath layers of haze. The only rhythm left was the pattern of his steps. Each stair held its shape. Some were smooth as river stone. Others shimmered with a faint frost, though no cold touched his skin. The air thinned, as if he was walking away from time itself. A wind moved past his shoulder, slow and circular. It smelled faintly of cedar, then salt, then smoke. Cale stopped. The stairs beneath him grew transparent. He looked down. The forest was gone. In its place, a wide plain stretched outward in every direction. It was not a place he recognized. No trees, no paths. He took one more step. The fog below shifted. Out of it walked a child, a boy with dark eyes and no shoes. His face was familiar. Cale remembered him from long ago, though no name came. The boy looked up and spoke. "You left us by the river." Cale opened his mouth, but no words formed. The boy's voice was not angry. It echoed, soft and measured. The image dissolved before Cale could step closer. Ahead, the stairs widened. Light formed an archway above him. As he passed under it, the scene changed again. This time, he stood in his childhood home, Fire crackled in the hearth. A clay bowl rested on the windowsill. His mother's voice called his name from another room. Cale stood still. The stair beneath his feet did not move. The smell of bread and ash lingered in the air. A clock ticked once, then stopped. He lowered his head. "This isn't real," he said aloud. The hearth went dark. The window pulled inward. The stair reappeared, rising once more. Cale stepped forward again. His breath steadied. The wind circled once, quieter now. A warmth flickered across his collar. Celine's light, not seen, only felt. He climbed again. The stairs curved now, spiraling around a void Cale could not measure. The sky above dimmed, not with clouds, but with a faint silver mist. His foot met the next stair, and the air shifted. A thin pressure pressed behind his ears, as if something was listening. No voices came, only the wind. He stopped to rest his hands on his knees. His breath was steady, but shallow. Around him, stars blinked, not above, but beside him. Their shapes moved, almost imperceptibly. Cale looked ahead. The next step was wider than the others. At its center, a pool of still water reflected nothing above. He knelt beside it. His face did not appear in the surface. No ripples, no sound. From somewhere beyond, the faint scent of ash and sweetgrass drifted past. He closed his eyes. Not to sleep, but to gather stillness. When he opened them, the stair had changed again. A corridor had formed, narrow and glowing with pale stone walls. Cale stepped inside. The surface beneath his feet was smooth. Not cold, not warm. The corridor opened into a flat platform. At the edge stood a figure. It faced outward, toward the stars. No movement, no threat. Cale approached slowly. The figure did not turn. But when he stood a few paces behind it, a voice reached him. "Do you know what you've given up to reach this far?" The voice was neither male nor female. It had the timbre of water over stone. Cale answered, "No one asked me to give it. I brought it with me." The figure turned. Its face was covered in soft light. A line of silver ran down the center of its forehead. "The stair tests what you carry. Not to take it, only to see if it holds." Cale didn't speak. The wind circled low around the platform. "You may pass," the figure said. It stepped aside, vanished. In its place stood a narrow arc of stone, glowing softly in the dark. Cale walked toward it. He stepped through. Ahead, the path widened again. The summit waited. And somewhere near the end, Celine stood in quiet stillness. He kept walking. The wind eased as Cale reached the summit. The air grew thinner, not cold, just faint around the edges. He stepped onto a wide stretch of stone. Light pooled here, steady and pale. The sky held no moon, but the platform glowed softly. Celine stood ahead, near the far edge. Her back was turned. Her hands were folded at her waist. She did not move, not at the sound of footsteps, not when his breath slowed behind her. Cale stopped a few paces away. The silence held for a moment, then another. He waited. She turned. Her expression was calm. No smile, no surprise. Just stillness, just recognition. She looked at him as if he had always been near, only out of reach. He exhaled through his nose. Not heavily, just enough. She stepped forward. One hand reached out, her fingers brushed against his chest. "I wasn't sure you'd come this far." He nodded. "I wasn't sure either." Her hand stayed there, steady. "There were voices," she said quietly. "Not warnings, just questions. I didn't answer them." He touched her wrist lightly. "I saw someone," he said. "I think it was part of the stair." They didn't stop me. Celine looked past him, toward the sky. No one ever really does, she said. It's just a long way. She leaned into him. Her forehead met his collarbone. They stood there, just that. The light around them brightened slightly. The stair behind them began to dim, retreating from sight. We don't have to leave yet, Celine said. He kept his arm around her. No, he replied. Let's stay a while. They sat at the edge of the summit. Below, the stars turned slowly. No voices, no tests. Only the sound of wind, and the closeness between them. Seasons passed. Time softened. Celine no longer watched the sky alone. Kale no longer chased the horizon. Together they made a place at the edge of the world, a quiet glade where moonlight lingered long after sunrise. They planted herbs near the stream. They kept fireflies in glass bowls. On some nights, he carved small wooden stars. On others, she sang old lullabies to the trees. And when the villagers spoke of the hunter and the moon maiden, they spoke in hushed awe of two souls who bridged the gap between sky and earth, heart and destiny. And on quiet nights, when the moon hung low and the earth sighed softly beneath the stars, you could see them dancing in the twilight veil, where their love would shine forever. If this story brought you a moment of calm, or a journey worth dreaming through, consider liking this video and subscribing to Velvet Hour. New tales arrive often, soft, slow, and made to linger. Thank you for spending time with this one. Until the next story.